The amount of people I talk to that don't have the family support or may go to doctor's appointments by themselves, I mean, that breaks my heart. It's why I mentor new patients, because I feel like everybody should have someone in their court when they're going through something like this, especially a diagnosis that's very confusing and a cancer that's really hard to navigate. My name is Mary Donlevy. I am from Manhattan Beach, California, and I have been living with pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor for 18 years now. Growing up, I was in an awesome household with my mom and dad and 4 brothers. I grew up doing a lot of different sports, a lot of boys' sports, and swimming has been the one that kind of stuck from childhood, honestly, all the way up until today, and hopefully forever. When I graduated, I took a little bit of time off from swimming because I thought, I'm done. You know, once you finish a 4-year collegiate career, you feel like you need a break. And then I realized I did not need a break. I started swimming on a master's team. Once I started connecting with those people and they said, you should come out to the ocean. And once I started swimming in the ocean and I started racing in the ocean, that's when I knew I had fallen in love with a totally different version of my sport. I'm pretty convinced that swimming is one of the primary reasons that I have stayed so healthy over the last 18 years with this diagnosis. So I was swimming and I had this great job as a sales rep and I was traveling all over and I had an awesome territory. And then I had a mutual friend introduce me to my husband.
Hi, I'm Jeff Donlevy. I'm Mary Donlevy's husband. I'm a neurosurgeon here in Southern California. 1999 is when we got married, so it's 24 years coming up.
Meeting him was definitely one of those moments where I can honestly say I knew he was the person I was going to marry.
You know, we definitely hit it off and started talking and things like that at the concert.
I think kind of similar to my dad, where he's just a really sweet, caring, quiet person. I knew I had met someone that would be an amazing husband and dad, and he has definitely turned out to be that.
Well, I think the qualities that, that from when we first met and then carries on through this day is, she's just a very compassionate person. She definitely is a type of person that pulls people into her orbit and they don't leave. And that's what really I was enamored by, that she seemed to be such a nice person and such a outgoing person and made friends very easily and was well liked by, everybody it seemed that she met.
Jeff and I had been married for a number of years at that point, and I had a 2-year-old son, and I kind of ignored all my symptoms.
Well, our symptoms initially were masked by being pregnant. What does every pregnant person do? They chalk it up to the pregnancies. And then when Leah was born, the symptoms obviously didn't resolve, and we couldn't start pinning it on the pregnancy anymore.
And I went to a physician that was a family physician and was very close with us. And when I saw his face, I'll never forget that. That was definitely one of the hardest days. So it was very scary. It was probably one of the scariest moments, but then seeing my husband's face was probably worse. So I know how lucky I was because they found it so early. I went right away for a biopsy and was diagnosed with NET within, I think a week. We pretty much determined very quickly that I needed to have a Whipple, which is an extensive surgery to remove most of the pancreas and some other organs and lymph nodes, and to at least start the process of fighting this cancer. I knew I wanted a big family. 2 was never going to be enough for me. At that point, I just had a massive surgery, 2 years prior. It took about 6 to 8 months to recover. I was young at the time. So I kind of thought it's time to get back to our lives. and having more kids was part of it. Really thinking only one was gonna happen. When I said I wanted to have one more, he was not so as excited, but willing. So I had a dream that I was having twins, actually. And then I found out that my dream actually had come to fruition and we were having twins. So at this point, I had a high-risk pregnancy because I was advanced maternal age because I was over 35. I had had cancer. I had identical twins who were sharing one of their sacs. So at that point, I was terrified the entire pregnancy, and thank God, I had two very healthy baby girls born 9 months later.
I remember being really young. I mean, she's had it pretty much my entire life, but I feel like as I've grown up and she's kind of gotten more adjusted to it, it's the opposite for me where I'm adjusting to it now. She was pretty open about it, especially because my dad's a doctor, so it wasn't like, a lot of it wasn't new to him either. Like, he was able to really help her out, and so I feel like that was really cool for me to see, like, my parents working together on something that my mom was dealing with. But I do think that it definitely didn't click for a while, like what was happening. It was just more so, my mom's sick sometimes, like she doesn't seem like it, but she is sometimes, and that definitely like changed as I've grown up.
Like you said, it's a journey from diagnosis to now. You know, there's always bumps in the road and things we need to work through as far as surgeries and chemotherapy and side effects from all that. So it's basically, you know, being there to pick up the loose ends. She doesn't have the reserve that everybody else does. She needs to have time to be down and get sleep and, you know, rest.
My day-to-day for the last 13 years, I was on a trial. And so I was taking oral medication and getting my monthly injection. The oral medication that I was on, it's called everolimus. And recently I made the decision to stop that medication and start a new trial. And unfortunately, that trial lasted about 3 months and it was not successful. So I have since stopped all systemic medications. And that is the first time I have not been on an oral medication since 2011. I all of a sudden stopped being exhausted all the time. My diabetes is much more in control. I had no idea how fatigued, and I had tons of edema. All these things just kind of gone by the wayside. Today, to dive in the pool and the ocean and feel like my body the way it's supposed to feel, you know, without medication, I am just so rejuvenated.
When I do the ocean swimming, I associate it with my mom's friends who she swims with all the time. And so, especially in the summer, like I feel like that's super important to me, is to be able to swim with my mom and her friends, and just like, they are such like a community that I want to find someday. But I feel like her swim team is unlike any community I've seen before.
And there was one time not long ago, I was out with my friend Julie. She was actually in a kayak. And there's an area where the dolphins often hang out. And so I have found myself lucky enough to swim with dolphins countless times in Hawaii. And this one particular time, they were just swimming all over. They were so close to me I could reach out and touch them. There were about 8 of them. And it was the most intense, 25 minutes. And when we got out of the water, there was a lifeguard. I said, "I just need to ask you something." He said, "Do you have cancer?" And I said, "I do." "Why do you ask?" And he said, "I've never seen the dolphins swim with anybody like that before." And I just had to make that assumption. And this was a 30-year veteran lifeguard in Hawaii. And I remember just starting bawling. I was like, that is crazy. If I ever am sick and just need, an escape, I think about that exact spot in Kona, outside of Kailua town, at the 1.2 buoy, turn around, and I just think about the dolphins, and that lake takes me away from it all. It kind of feels like a superpower to be able to do this with cancer. And then to my kids do it with me. it just feels like I'm supposed to be there. It feels like, it's like, I just know that I'm like feeding my soul, and that is fighting my cancer.
Well, I mean, I think that's her best attribute is always having the brighter side attitude. Anytime she said, I can't believe I'm so lucky that I don't have my life completely thrown in uproar over having cancer. She goes, I do everything I want to do. I can travel, I can see friends, I can do all kinds of things I want to do. I can swim every morning if I want to, and other people can't. They don't have that opportunity. So she's always had a very positive outlook on things, and that's definitely, I think kept our kids on an even keel.
I always tell new patients that I mentor, whatever it is that makes you feel like you get your life back, it may not be the same version of what you knew before, because it's hard to be able to do that when you don't have energy and you're fatigued. But any version you can get back of what you loved, even if it's just a little piece of it, and if you can't, find something else that gives you just that memory of what it feels like to be normal. Because for me, it's what's got me through this whole entire stretch, is feeling like I'm just a person living with this cancer. I have it, and it's okay. Like, I can still do this.
What I've noticed over the years is she never once has put her life on pause. Like, she always takes time for us. She always takes time for her family and for her friends, and, is always pouring whatever she has into other people.
My community, my family, my brothers, my mom and dad, my college friends, my current friends, I don't know what I would do. And I know I've kind of pushed my family, we were just talking about this because of what I'm going through now, is I kind of push people away when I go through the crossroads of a new challenge with the cancer. And I won't do that anymore. Like, I'm now in a place where I kind of just want to let people in and let people feel like they understand what's going on. Because nobody, when I think about one of my kids going through something like this and pushing me away because they don't want me to worry about them, they're gonna worry. I'm gonna worry. So it's easier for people to have information and to feel they're in it with you. So I just feel so lucky that I have this many people that are in it with me.